I don't know whether you whether you've come across the remarkable Quentin Crisp, but he used to do these theatre extravaganzas where he would be given little cards which had been written with questions from the audience, and then he would improvise and answer. And there's one that I remember particularly. Have I lived another life? If so, who were you? Well, I must say, I can't believe in reincarnation. It doesn't seem to work. Mr. Gladstone died as a Prime Minister and came back as a handbag. Lord Cardigan died as a born leader of men and came back as a woolly. So it's not a very good idea. Also, of course, I don't mind having lived before if I don't know. What I wouldn't like is to step out of my mother's womb and think, here again. So I believe what my nature inclines me to believe, which is that I have not lived before and will not live again. The thing I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy is eternal life. And so I think it's quite a salutary approach, but you know it is a subject that has occupied a lot of minds. We suffer, we live, we love, and then what? That single unrelenting question haunts our species with a persistence that no civilization has managed to ignore. What happens after we die, particularly if we think we are important? Theories abound. Proof remains elusive, and yet belief in some form of continuation, whether a soul's journey, a cosmic recycling, or a reunion with the divine, has endured. I would like, just in a very brief 10 minutes, to examine the afterlife not as a dogma but as a question, to explore the physical and the anecdotal evidence, theological traditions from Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity, and even the unlikely mystical wisdom of Quentin Crisp. What he's got to say, I think, about Gladstone bags and cardigans. Well, I always wear a cardigan, so I'm invested in his oeuvre. Is reincarnation or is eternal life? Are these just comfort blankets for the terrified or glimpses of something deeper? The scientific evidence and the strange is limited. Physically, there is little verifiable evidence of life after death. The brain shuts down, organs fail, consciousness, that slippery concept, vanishes from measurable form. However, there are phenomena that resist easy explanation. The near-death experiences, the common reports include tunnels of light, reunions with the deceased, with loved ones, hovering above one's body. I had an MRI a while ago, and I was made to relax. And when I relaxed, I suddenly found myself looking down on myself, which I think is exactly that sort of hovering, which is described. So it is possible to do it before death, I think, but it requires that particular form of conscious relaxation. Now, Dr. Raymond Moody's seminal 1975 book, Life After Life, categorized these experiences, and neuroscientists continue to probe whether such visions are neurological misfires or something more metaphysical. There are children in India and Sri Lanka who claim and have been documented recalling past lives, with details later confirmed. Dr. Ian Stevenson of the University of Virginia documented over 2,500 such cases, and skeptics argue suggestion, coincidence, fabrication, but the volume and the consistency of these accounts remain peculiar. And then, of course, there's the tradition of the various lamas, of whom the Dalai Lama is perhaps the most famous. But I've met a few lamas who are not so famous, and I must say they exude charisma. The sort of charisma that I don't think can be bottled up in one single experience of life. Nurses and palliative carers report patients seeing long-dead relatives or knowing the moment of their passing in uncannily precise ways. These may be hallucinations or glimpses of a crossing, but these anecdotes are not necessarily proof. They're provocations. They whisper of something more, but they cannot shout it into certainty. Now, the traditions where life after death is not hope but assumption are the traditions of theology. Hinduism presents a universe of cycles, samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, governed by karma, the moral consequence of one's actions. And the soul, Atman, persists but shifts bodies like garments until liberation, moksha, is achieved, and the individual's self is a temporary expression of Brahman, the universal consciousness. Buddhism, which while influenced by Hindu thought, subtly diverges, and here there is no permanent soul. Instead, continuity is shaped by skadas, the aggregates of consciousness and memory that pass along like a flame lighting another candle. Rebirth occurs, but without a singular self. One lives again, not as oneself, but as the echo of one's actions and attachments. It's less comfort than caution. Both systems offer an elegant moral structure. How you live now shapes what comes next, but the focus is not wish fulfillment, it's escape from desires, from illusion, from ego. Judaism is more ambivalent. In the Hebrew Bible, Sheol is a shadowy underworld, more like forgetting than paradise, very similar to the Greek understanding in the Iliad. Later, Rabbinic Judaism develops concepts like the Olam Haba, the Gan Eden, the world to come, bodily resurrection, and the immortality of the soul. But these were not universally accepted. Maimonides affirms resurrection, yet remains vague on the form. Christianity, in contrast, ties itself to resurrection, both Christ's and our own. The Nicene Creed, which is being celebrated the 1700th anniversary this year, proclaims the belief in the resurrection of the body and life everlasting. Yet here again there are divisions. Some Christians envisage heaven as a spiritual communion, others as a bodily restoration. Some believe the soul immediately ascends, others posit a sleep until judgment. Of course, in the life after death there is no time, so that's an interesting concept. Many modern Protestants have quietly dropped hell, but with it any real eschatological rigour. There are people in early Christianity, particularly Clement of Alexandria, who believed in universal salvation, and there are certainly people that I have met and I know who pray for the soul of the devil and for Judas, but because on the principle that God cannot create anything evil, God can only create things that are good, and potential good is still good. Sometimes it gets lost in the process. But pausing on that thought, there have been devout Christians, profound, prayerful, sacrificial people who have not believed in the afterlife in any literal sense. Albert Schweitzer, the missionary and theologian, stressed reverence for life but not reward beyond it. Paul Tillich spoke of eternal life as a symbolic union with being itself, not personal survival. And then we come back to Quentin Crisp, this flamboyant iconoclast, an accidental mystic who declared, if I were to be reincarnate, I'd like to come back as myself, only slightly younger and with better lighting. And his quip masks something deeply serious, the longing not for reward, but for recognition. And in some theological circles, resurrection is understood not as revivification, but as vindication, the idea that our life matters to God, even if we do not endure in individual form. Are these beliefs in reincarnation, in heaven, mere wishful thinking? Perhaps, but wishful thinking, like myth, can still contain truth. And there's something incredibly, irreducibly human in imagining that love doesn't perish with breath, that justice, so rare in life, might find completion beyond it, that memory, the once sacred archive that we possess, is not merely lost to entropy, But equally, belief in an afterlife can also be an evasion. It can obscure the ethical urgency of the present, as if wrongs can be undone later and virtues accrue cosmic air miles. The more rigorous traditions of Buddhism, Stoicism, and strands of Judaism often resist this. They urge us to act now, to live well now, without celestial bribes. So where does that leave us? There's no consensus, there's no proof, and nor is there silence. The afterlife, reincarnation, resurrection, these are not answers so much as questions that refuse to go away. Whether one believes in a literal heaven, a recycling of selves, or the quiet dignity of non-being, the human instinct is clear. We are more than what we seem, and whether that more continues beyond death in a spiritual awakening, in a literary record, in the generations of children, in memory, in impact, it matters. To believe in an afterlife is to hope that the story is not over. To believe in nothing is to insist that we make the story worthwhile. And to believe in both, as the greatest mystics do, is to live as if eternity begins not at death but now, that we are already on the footsteps, in the portal of heaven, that we are living a liminal life. We are living as if we are eternal, as if what we say now has relevance tomorrow and beyond.